Welcome to the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show, a broadcast service of globalbusinessnews.net.
This episode from the meeting room of Global TV Talk Show is brought to you by
The Bridge School, the accredited international online private school of choice, at bridgek12.org.
Porch Light Rental and Destination Services. Reduce your renter lump sum or managed relocation costs. Visit them at porchlightrental.com.
And by airs.com. With our full range of services, we can help design and manage your international relocation. Find us at airs.com.
Primestone Partners, featuring corporate, government, and developer housing solutions, as well as senior-level advisory services. Find them at primestonepartners.com.
And by International Auto Source. We are the vehicle experts for expats, featuring all major brands of automobiles with flexible solutions and financing. On the web at intlauto.com.
Become a global player in your field.
Cross Culture to Go provides virtual support for your global business and career success.
We can help you thrive in 140 plus countries and markets.
On the web at crossculturetogo.com.
This is Ed Cohen in San Diego, California, and you're on Global TV Talk Show. This is a business unit of globalbusinessnews.net, which has been in operation since '03, and Google Analytics, if we can believe all that. They say 1.2 million audience page views since '03 from 100 countries. But more realistically, since we started this Global TV Talk Show as a result of our live conference business crashing and burning as a result of COVID, we started this up in April 2020, and since then, Google Analytics has measured 110,000 audience page views. And thank you very much out there, and thank you to our guests for being on the program more than once in most cases here, and thank you. So our audience for this program is not so much today, but for the next 12 months, about 100,000 will receive this directly from our networking, being based on globalbusinessnews.net, linking to YouTube channel, and then streaming later through various others, including Facebook. And we're going to get into other things. Dr. Natalie Forrest is with us. She is an author and an excellent resource for people who are in need of professional counseling. She's also spoken at several of our live meetings and has been on our radio show, been on several TV shows, and is soon relocating from America to Hamburg. Now, you're originally from that area, correct?
Absolutely. Back to my hometown.
Yeah, and why are you doing that?
Oh, where do I start? How much time do we have?
You can talk all day if you want, because you're so good to listen to.
I know. It's really, it is mostly because of family relations, meaning my mom is still there.
And your daughter
I believe that
needs to have more time there, right?
Absolutely, and schooling. One of my PEEF projects is schooling, and I'm going to offend everybody who appreciates U.S. schooling. I think it is not appropriate or accurate. I'm a teacher. I've taught teachers, so I want her to get a different type of education focused on critical thinking, and that will be in Germany. And we're going over there for a year to see how she likes it, and then we'll make another decision. But my guess is that we'll be there for a while, and I'm so fortunate, not just that I have my family in Europe, but that everything I do, whether it is meeting with you, Ed, and all these people on here, or whether it is with my coaching and mentoring, or with the LA Tribune, or all the other things I'm involved in, such as You Define Wellness, it's all global now. So wherever we are, we can still do what we're passionate about. I hope that helps.
I'm going to put my hand out and shake it. And why doesn't everybody just look a little silly and do this just for a second? And this is like we're networking, right? Okay. And so on the bottom of the screen there, you'll see the chat box. And it's okay if you want to send messages to me or anybody else here. And it's okay to share email and website or LinkedIn. That's the idea of networking, telemetric or whatever, telecom networking. So I want so many cool people here. We're going to go around and everybody's going to have to talk. Dr. Justin James Kennedy and I recently met. He's been on our program. He's just written a book recently. It's Reboot Your Brain. So Dr. Kennedy, thank you again for clearing your schedule. You're a super busy guy. And so I want you to just tell us what Reboot Your Brain is all about.
Thank you, Ed. The most important thing about rebooting my brain is that I'm locked down in Croatia, about 10 meters from the beach. So I'm really pulling through for the team. I couldn't make the other appointment because I had a back-to-back appointment. But you know what it's like? You're working online. You've got the beach over there, but you've got the clients and the people you have to speak to here. So it's very difficult to reboot my brain from work into.
Well, I know that I'm
surfing.
interrupting your happy hours, 5 p.m. So are you in Dubrovnik or down south?
Happy hour already.
Right?
I'm on an island called Braj, which means rock, and it's a little bit up from Dubrovnik, but it's really beautiful.
So right along the coast, but not near Split. Is that it?
Well, no, you've got it. You know your Croatian.
Well, we went on one of these luxury boat cruises up the Dalmatian coast, and I actually saw a couple of Dalmatian doggies.
Wow. Well, you wouldn't be the first.
Yeah.
But I'm basically on the biggest island off from Split, so I can see Split from over here. If you want me to point out to it, I'll take you for a tour if you like.
Oh, later. But we were there in the evening this time of year, probably 3 years ago, and boy, everybody else was there too. It was really crowded.
Yeah, you've got to pick your time. In the winter, it's windy and cold. In the summer, it's hot and full of tourists. So we end up camping out in our house and going out for beers and bread and nothing else.
That's nice. Okay, so I know, because we've had this conversation on a previous program,
right.
that Reboot Your Brain is all about, if you change certain things about the way you think about one thing, it's going to impact your life. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Everything you do will have a physiological impact. And the book's title is Brain Reboot, based on my own experience going through a coma and then all the journey through to becoming a professor in applied neuroscience. So the byline of the book is most important, which I can't remember exactly. I've got a copy of it here, but it says, train your brain to change your mind. And you can filter the way that your brain experiences the world. For example, I'm having a nice coffee now. So as a result, the caffeine is pumping up my late afternoon attention when I should be having a margarita, Ed. For you, I'm having the caffeine.
Listen, Margaritaville works for me.
No, I'm just teasing. But there's things you can do to prime your brain to be in the right space of mind, and as a result, get yourself ready for whatever event you want to be. So I work with a lot of professionals, like the people in this group, to help them get Olympic fit into a professional PhD program. So if any of you, maybe I'll do a sales pitch quickly. For any of you are interested in doing a PhD that is based on your professional expertise, let's have a chat afterwards. We can get that processed in a year or two, depending on your expertise. But Ed, I really enjoy the space of being a behavioral neuroscientist and showing people that they can change their brain with their hands. So that's the goal. Denise, I see you've got you define wellness in the background, and I've recently written a chapter for an English textbook where I defined the model of organizational well-being neuroscience. So if you want to have a look through some academia around what I've called the OWN model of organizational well-being neuroscience, drop me a note and we can chat away as long as you like. In fact, anybody wants a copy. Maybe I'll give you a copy, Eda. You can spam everybody. Make them read academia.
I'm an unreformed spammer.
Good for you. Good for you. Join the team.
So, Dr. Natalie, you just had a broadcast called Dr. Natalie, right?
Well, actually, it is this afternoon, my time.
Oh, okay,
yes,
good.
yes.
Timely. This show is timely. So you're going to be on Roku?
Yeah, it's live streaming on all of our channels, Los Angeles Tribune and mine, and then it's a weekly show. Today we're welcoming Rex Sykes, and it is talking. I love what Dr. Justin James Kennedy, I don't know how to exactly, if I can just say doctor, it was talking about, because it's all about, mindset, mind flex, and how do we live our lives our way so that we're happy, successful, and all of that good stuff. So it's going to be a weekly show, and yes, it's going to be on Roku, Amazon Fire, all that stuff that is out there now.
I really thank you. I'm going to get back to you because I had a conversation day before yesterday with Carlton Huskins, who's a partner with you in some things. Yeah. And he told me about his show now on Roku because of you, I think. Yes. And so I said, okay, I got to do Roku too. And we got to figure this out.
Absolutely.
So, okay, we have to introduce everybody here. And we want to make sure everybody can talk with each other. So I'm not going to talk so much. And therefore, my job today will be a lot easier. So Andrew Elliman and I have known each other a few years. He's in the London area, actually Cambridge, right? Around Cambridge?
Yeah, sort of Bedfordshire way, Bedfordshire. More.
Yeah, okay. So his day job is in the relocation management business for a very large company, which he'll talk about. But he also owns a self-flagellation type of company. He goes on these crazy things like climbing Mount Everest and surviving, and he's, get this now, the guy is going to swim the English Channel in September, and less than a year ago or so, he didn't even know how to swim, never mind in the pool. So Andrew, I don't mean to embarrass you, but we celebrate your energy here. So
no, I appreciate everything you do. And hello, everyone. It's actually a pleasure to be on this today, because I think just hearing already a couple of you talking, I already want to reach out to you right now and say, I need help, because I definitely have something different up here to most. Like Ed just said, I've done some sort of crazy things in the past. I attempted to get to the summit of Everest in 2015, and my world completely changed. It was 5 years of trying to learn to prepare myself to take on the biggest challenge of my life. And then whilst on Everest, I happened to get caught up in the worst earthquake Nepal had ever seen in 2015 and nearly died from the whole episode. But I'm still here. And it completely changed my life. And I realized that actually, and going back to what you were saying about teaching the brain, the penny dropped for me about what I could do and physically achieve when everyone else seems to think it's impossible, and they say I can't do that, and I always say, why not? So and then in 2018 I went back to Everest, and I broke the world record for the highest dinner party ever held on the North Col of Everest. In tuxedo, 7,000 meters up the mountain on the North Col of Everest. Crazy time. It was all to raise money for different charities. I work with a charity called Community Action Nepal, and it's helping the mountain people of Nepal. These are the people that are very, they don't get any help. They're up in the mountains, and it's very important for me to make sure the Sherpas are looked after. So that was one part of it. But then, of course, when you come back in 2018 and you've done the highest mountain, what do you do? And my wife said, make sure you do something, keep it at sea level. And I said, well, actually, I've got an idea. And I said, I'm going to swim the English Channel. And this panic look comes over her face because I can't swim. At the age of 48, I cannot swim. And so I went on this journey. And just like Everest, there's been road bumps in the way. I got caught in the pandemic like all of us did. To me, that was my earthquake for this whole thing. So yeah, in September this year, it will be 3 years exactly to the date when I announced I would be doing it. I had to postpone by 1 year because of the pandemic. And since then, I've been asking lots and lots of questions myself, because I'm also a motivational speaker and I talk about fear. And at first, for me, fear was, I had a fear of water, fear of swimming, take on my biggest fear and show people anything is possible with the right training, right conditioning, etc. But it's gone much further than that, because I can swim. I swim down at Dover Harbour every weekend, and I'll do 7 mile swims now for 5 hours in 14 degrees of water just in a pair of Speedos. So I'm used to extreme cold. I'm used to the rough weather. It's raining. I live in the UK, so it rains a lot. Most of the time it's raining. It's not the best weather to be swimming in. And I've conditioned myself to that. I still have fears. My fear now has changed from swimming. My fear is now the point of making it to France, swimming to France. It's 21 miles, but about 26 miles because I'll be swimming in an S shape with the tides. But it's now opened a whole door to me with everything that goes on. And I'm trying to explore about fear. And what does fear really mean? And what is fear? Fear is attached to doubt, and doubt's a killer on its own, because it kills most dreams. And so by default, I've been experimenting with what is it about fear? Why do we fear things? And everyone in this room is fearing something. The pandemic, people are fearing about going back to work, going back into the office, going overseas. So it opens a whole spectrum, which I find fascinating, if I'm honest. But I'm not going to talk too much now, because I don't the rest of you have got to talk, so I can talk forever.
We got lots of opportunity to chat, and thank you for doing this, and I hope you can stay with us for the hour. So I want to introduce Marianne Rechek, who's in the San Francisco area. Say hi, Marianne.
Ed, hi. I have technical difficulties going on with my Zoom account here, so sorry about that. Hello, everybody, from freezing cold San Francisco.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's what happens in the summertime, right?
I'm so done with summer here.
And let's say hello to Mark Colo. Mark, you're on the golf course somewhere.
Hey, Ed, I am. I enjoyed that last tidbit about fear. I have a condition I've had for about 15 years now. It's called Parkinson's. And it's got some challenges and complexities to it, but I don't let it hold me back. I still try and press forward. I still try and do the best I can. But it's a unique experience, to say the least. I started a foundation about 5 years ago called Find Neuro Help, and we help individuals that get these chronic illnesses. We help them transition to a place of stability, place of mental health, and we support them with services that they can't find anywhere else.
So let me just interject that it's findneurohelp.org, and
correct.
It's our favorite charity. And whenever we're able to sell some ad space and get sponsorships, a portion of the revenues coming our way, I will donate to findneurohelp.org. So everyone, please buy advertising. Mark,
please.
What are you going to be doing today? You're going to be playing golf, or are you just driving around in your golf cart?
Well, we're having a golf tournament on September 27th. All of you are invited. It might be a bit of a stretch for some of you, but this is our 4th annual golf tournament. We get about 100 players, and we're hoping to break 110 this year, hopefully, but it grows each year. And so I'm going around to about a dozen different golf courses here in Southern California, asking them for a certificate for a free foursome on their course. And I'm not going to take no for an answer. We're going to walk away with several of these, I'm sure. But that's what I'll be doing today, is I'll be on the road for most of the day.
So Mark, you've been listening to Dr. Justin Kennedy talk about rebooting brains. And this is something that you had to do, right?
Yeah, I did, Ed. It was a major mindset. When you get the diagnosis that you have a chronic illness that's going to shorten your lifespan and start taking bits and pieces of you away, it's a tall order day. I mean, it's a very difficult day in your life, and so that's where when you need somebody to be there to support you and to tell you what you can look forward to. You still have a great life ahead of you, even though you've gotten that news. So it's just a mental mindset that you have to go through, and I'm just thankful that I was able to put those pieces together. So,
yeah. Amen. So we've had the start of a series. Mark and I have launched a series of discussions with noted scientists involved with the neuro situation. So the first one was Dr. Howard Fedorov, and we have a show coming up tomorrow afternoon. Mark, why don't you tell us about the special guest?
We've got a gentleman named Tim Kern. He's a professor at UC Irvine, and he specializes in diabetes and blindness. He and his team are trying to find the answer to why diabetes causes blindness. They don't have an answer for that yet, and he's on the cutting edge of that. He also has an eye challenge of his own. He's losing his eyesight. He's almost entirely lost his eyesight, but yet he's fighting for a cure for that problem, which is admirable. Just a great gentleman. So I'm looking forward to being on that call.
Yeah, so that program is on Global TV Network tomorrow afternoon. If anybody wants to get the invite, just send me a message here. All right.
Can I put one more plug in?
Yeah,
I've written 2 books that you might, those on the call might enjoy reading. The first book is called Peace with Parkinson's. Subtitles, it's called Arresting Tremor, Not an Earthquake. My second book is called The Noble and Great Ones. And that it's not about proportions, it's what's in the glass that matters most. So those are my 2 topics, and I enjoyed writing them. Took a long time to write and get them published, but I hope you'll look into those. They're both available on Amazon.
Yeah, you bet, and thank you. Let's go to Nina Taylor. Nina and I just did a talk show, and it's really nice to see you again. So Nina, tell us about yourself and your company. What's your company name?
So the company name is The Sweet Faith. I started it 3 years this August.
And type in that so everyone can see it, okay?
Okay, I definitely will.
So The Sweet Faith.
Yes.
Now, sweet is SUITE.
Correct.
So you're in the housing business.
I am. So I do corporate housing. The faith, of course, comes from how I actually started my business. So I love these mindset conversations that we're actually having right now, because I needed to completely change my mindset from going to corporate America to an entrepreneur. Mindset was crucial in transitioning. So my faith is what I ride on every single day. I always tell myself every day I'm responsible for employing myself. So Sweet Faith is kind of dear to my heart and who I represent. It's my client, and it's how I actually grow and started my business. So that's how it came about. And 3 years this August.
Okay, we're going to get to everybody, and then we're going to come back, and everyone's going to have a chance. Okay, Drew Phillips, when you can, come on back, and let's introduce each other. Let's go to my friend Rob Pienka in Pennsylvania. Rob has written books. He's been a world traveler, a world residence, and he's a specialist, really, in being agile. So define that.
Thank you, Ed. The opportunity to be here and to meet such wonderful people again, it's always a pleasure. It's for me, it's not about rebooting perception filters, but revisiting them, which many adults don't do, and taking ownership of your perception filters, your cultural perception filters. I suppose we call it global agility training. It focuses on meeting the opportunities to embrace the world that globalization is that the challenge of globalization is creating as it sweeps through the U.S. American economy and society, and the narrative through which U.S. American culture understands the world. Our training focuses on opportunities for people at all levels of society to equip themselves to deal with the changing environment that they're living in. And people who are, very culturally competent already might describe this as, basic cross-cultural sensitization. But for, a lot of people, it's exactly what's needed, and no more, no less. We don't enjoy a historic isolation anymore. And we need to be having positive cross-cultural experiences. And we have a legacy of negative ones. So I'm really focused on not rebooting, but revisiting, having people revisit how they were taught to look at things as children, and they never questioned it again. But we're responsible for this.
Thank you so much. We will come back to you. We want to talk about a deep dive. Okay. I want to introduce Ken Somers, who's a senior HR business executive, and he has recently become an entrepreneur after doing global international HR management jobs for very large organizations. Ken, welcome.
Thank you, Ed. Happy to be here, and greetings to everyone. As Ed said, I recently decided to leave the corporate rat race and become a freelancer. What I do is I work with small and medium businesses to address a whole range of people challenges, but I have a special interest in working with HR people and or business leaders who want to develop more courage and impact for their organizations, especially the courage part with HR people.
So let's talk about the role of what should be the role of this thing called an HR business partner.
How much time do we have? Someone asked that. Well, look, I'll try to say it as simply as I can. To be effective as an HR business partner, you have to understand your business at least at a layperson level, perhaps not a technical level. You have to be able to build relationships, and you have to have the courage to tell the truth when the truth is painful. There's a lot more to it, but if I was going to pick top three, those would be the top three.
So our business partner, in the past, a business partner was just somebody down the hall, but now, particularly between mobility and talent management, talent recruitment, comp and ben, compliances, a lot of time, all these heads of those categories don't talk to each other, but the business partner is going to be perfect chameleon kind of guy or woman or whoever. But that role is needed now more than ever as people are being redirected or doing things differently.
Yeah, I think that's right. And the metaphor that I use, and with apologies to folks who are overseas, I'll use the American football term. The HR business partner is the quarterback. The HR business partner is typically, and organizations have different models, but typically is that single source, single point of contact for a business leader on getting people stuff done. And the business partner should be in a position to coordinate compensation, recruitment, talent management, you name it. He or she needs to be that single point of contact so that stuff gets done from a people leadership, people development, people management point of view in any organization. And reason why one of the things I focus on is courage is, in my experience, both as a business partner and as a leader of business partners, the business partner and a lot of HR people in other roles as well become a captive of the business they support because they're afraid to say, gee, what are you thinking when you do this? Or you made a mistake, or that's a dumb decision. And business leaders are people too. They make mistakes. And, a good business partner is going to be that thought partner to help suss out where the organization is going down the wrong path and help the business redirect its energies to the right things.
Thank you. Drew Phillips, would you like to jump in here? Oh, you must be on a call. Okay, let's go to Denise O'Malley. So here we are. You know, tell us about how your business is growing.
It's growing. We're in a massive change ourselves right now. Just to explain who it is that we are. Udefine Wellness is a network of independent health and wellness professionals. I'm a reformed insurance agent. After decades of being in the insurance industry, I'd said enough. There wasn't anything I could be doing for mastering change. So we left and created Udefine Wellness. It is an employee benefit program that thousands of employees told me they wanted, and nobody was out there creating it. And it's to help them discover their path to healthy living and support them in it in an employer subsidized program with education and access to services. And right now is a really good time. We're all in transitions. In fact, we have an event next month that we're doing called Transitions 2021. And it's because we're all, where we were and where we're going, and this is where we are today. And there's a huge need for it. And so we're excited to deliver it.
Right. Thank you for being back on Global TV.
Happy
And
to be here. Thank you.
so you're friendly with Kathy McCarty, and here we are. Kathy, please introduce yourself.
Well, good morning. I am unexpectedly delighted to be here. Thank you. And Denise has also introduced me to Dr. Natalie, which I have started to follow and picked up so many pearls of wisdom. I am new to entrepreneurship to a certain extent. I came from a corporate environment of well over 30 years in banking, lending, and finance. And after myself, I can relate somewhat to Drew's conversation, especially with the site. But after experiencing a serious health event of my own, where I did almost lose my sight, I did what, and this was in 2016, I did what seemed like a sensible solution. I have 3 grown children, and I rented out our family home temporarily in the foothills of Denver, Colorado, in a bedroom community called Evergreen. And I used a property management company. And what turned into this solution, what I thought was a sensible solution, was my worst nightmare. They rented it to these property managers irresponsibly rented it out to a meth head that turned my home into a meth lab and fully contaminated it. And this is a journey that started for me in October of 2018. And it became to turn my mess into a mission to ensure that everyone have safe spaces, safe spaces to live in. I learned that meth contamination in our homes and our lives affects our health, our physical safety, and our financial stability. And so I founded Meth Toxins Awareness Alliance as a social impact organization to bring this information not only locally to my community, but to my state. I've been branching out nationally and eventually globally. I've learned it is a serious problem, and I am bringing that conversation to circles in real estate and affiliate relationships. Thank you for having me here. I feel very grateful.
Well, you certainly are a global voice for change. Lucy Ruth, thank you for coming. Why don't you explain your take on this, and please intro yourself.
Hi, everybody. What an honor to be here. And I just feel like it was meant to be, because everybody is talking about mindset and wellness. And I'm actually an author of a book series called Debunk and Develop Your Mind. Our minds have been told a lot of things. So sometimes we need to debunk like the negative thoughts and the negative deeds of society and turn them into positive outcomes. So my story began when I lost my mother. I was born in Africa. My mother committed suicide.
Ooh.
And I was 10 at that time. And due to the lack of resources, I had depression and it was undiagnosed and nobody knew that I suffered from depression. Imagine being a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, you don't have you don't have your mom. Like, you know, a girl needs their mom or a good auntie to talk to. But I suffered in silence and it took me 20 years suffering from my undiagnosed depression. So my undiagnosed depression came from a point of unforgiveness. See, when we are holding and we are resentful, I'm like, you never loved me. Why did you kill yourself? You never loved me. I'm so resentful. I hated Mother's Day. But my victory came. During all this battle of depression, I never sought help until I started changing and following a lot of motivational speakers and knowing that you are what you feed your brain. I started feeding my brain positive stuff. I started reading positive stuff. I said, you know what? I want to be successful. I'm now a mom. I don't want my children to walk through this journey that I walked. So I talk a lot about mindset. When you debunk everything, the negative words, and even the kids that are bullied in schools, I wrote a book about how to love yourself as well after bullying and abuse. So it's all about detoxing, mind detox. Get rid of those negative things that we're told, because society calls us names all the time. Work, school, everywhere you go, there's gonna be somebody, that one person that just going to put that scar in your heart. And to unscar is a process. It can take 20 years. Healing is a journey. It can take 20 years. So when we debunk our minds and develop habits of thinking of positivity, we're slowly releasing healing, because the mind is what we feed it. If we are constantly feeding ourselves, oh, I'm not good enough, oh, I can't do it, you're going to dwell on the I can't do this, I can't do that. So you need to develop mindsets, a healthy mindset, a positive mindset of say, I'm the best, I'm gonna do it. My tomorrow is better than yesterday. That's how my journey started. And now I'm an author, I'm a speaker, and I'm a youth mentor.
Well, we're going to come right back to you, Irma. Before we get to you, I want to ask our two doctors to comment. Dr. Kennedy.
I think the theme that's coming up here, Ed, is that everybody has a story, a personal story of trauma or of challenge that they've overcome, from having dinner on Mount Everest to coming over Parkinson's. You know, this is a theme. And I think the trick to living a good life is to find that holy grail and to do something with it. And I actually recently read The Holy Grails in Ethiopia. Lucy said, if you're from Ethiopia, we should go check it out. I'm from South Africa, by the way. So there is something there. In my work, there is a lot of people that are recovering from brain disease or brain trauma, and it's not a neurological, it's not a psychological, it's not a social or a professional problem. It is a transdisciplinary issue that needs to be addressed. So we're all coming from different areas to address the same thing. Some from fear, some from motivational speaking, some from wellness. But I think we're all in the same team, Ed, and I think we're all striving for, I don't know, let's call it the greater good. And there is a huge sense of pride in being part of this community for me as I sit here. And what that does for the brain, for all of our brains, is that if we feel part of a community, there is a sense of well-being. There's a release of oxytocin, and we're all feel part of a tribe. And you know, tribes are no longer around a campfire. You know, this is a tribe that you're building, Ed. So thank you very much for that.
Global tribe, boy, that'll be a new trademark for me.
You can't take it. You can't take it. It belongs to the tribe. You can't take it.
Okay. All right. Let's go to Dr. Natalie Forrest.
Well, I want to chime in here briefly, and Lucy and I, we've talked before, so good to see you again. Coming at it, not from the medical perspective, but from the transformational change perspective, experience, and all of that. I think Dr. Justin is so on target, and Lucy, of course, as well. It's how we see things. So when we're talking about change and being for change, we need to be open to changing our perspective. And change is one of those words that a lot of people get iffy about because we're all in our routine. But I was talking earlier in a clubhouse room about this as well. We can look at everything through the perspective, through the blinders that we've been trained to look at. And they're usually more negative because we've been trained to fit into society in a certain way. However, at the same time, we can change our perspective and use our stories and understand that only we were able to make it through, to overcome that story. That's why we were granted that amazing experience, as much, excuse my language, as it may have sucked at that time. Okay. I mean, Andrew is a great example. Mark is a great example. Everybody here has been through something. So if we modify how we look at things. Lucy is using her story to inspire others. And Dr. Justin just mentioned, well-being. Well, that's Denise. What is wellness to you? Wellness can be financial, well, because you no longer feel stressed. Wellness can be exercise. Wellness can be psychology. So as an example, if I may just go on for like 1 or 2 more minutes, we had a lightning strike hit just down the road on Monday. And, nothing happened to us. However, we saw it, we felt it, the clock fell off the wall. I could have panicked. And initially there was nothing. I was like, okay, comforting my daughter, everything is good. And then we were like, it smells weird. What is this? Oh, my printer is blinking weird. Let's turn on the TV and see TV is not working. This is not working. So there are a lot of things now that I guess it was like an underground search that are not working. I can be up in arms. I can be calling the insurance agent. I can be saying, oh my God, this is all so unfair. And this is, of course, a minute little detail. However, I'm loving it. Finally, the TV doesn't work. Yay! We now turning on the projector and creating our own little movie whenever we want. So it's like just changing it and seeing, wow, why is this happening for me? Not to me, but for me. And that's, I think, shows us then how strong we are and how amazing we are, because there's nobody else who could have gone through that. And Lucy is a great example. Mark is a great example. Andrew, I want to talk more about your story. That's so cool. So I think if we look at it change that way, and then we influence it, as Dr. Justin was saying, we influence everybody else, because right now everybody here is going, oh yeah, and I can add this positivity, and I can connect here, and I can help here. And that's the wave or the snowball effect that, Ed, you've been working on for years, connecting people across the globe to improve humanity and society. So I'll leave it at that. Went a little off stream here, but I felt that
bless you. Thank you very much. We're going to get to Drew Phillips in just a second. Irma Balian and I have known each other about a year. She's been on a few shows. She's an author of a book about protocols. And so what we're talking about here is not which fork to use, although that's part of it. It's about dealing with cross-cultural situation with very intelligent, very senior people. Irma, welcome.
Hi, Ed. How are you? With all those stories that I heard, some have really touched me, some have inspired me. And, for those of you who don't know me, I'm an intercultural coach with a background in protocol and self-diplomacy and a focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And when I heard Lucy's story, I kind of reflected on that by what I see in diversity and inclusion. I mean, Lucy's story was about her depression for so many years, and she didn't realize that until she had that awareness. And we nowadays, we don't realize that a lot of times we are excluded, and a lot of times we are emotionally, marginalized. And if we don't have that awareness, we go on for years thinking that we did something wrong, and we don't realize that it is the system or the environment or the culture that needs to be modified somehow. I just wanted to add that about this, what I've been hearing. Very interesting stories. And I'm in the protocol business for corporates, and lately a lot of people have been asking me what is it that's going to change post-pandemic? What would happen if things would stay the same or things would change? And in protocol, there are some things that are like set stone. They will not change, whether it's before the pandemic, during the pandemic, or the post, such as respect, such as punctuality and trust. These are trust, especially because it's the glue that brings all stakeholders together. And without trust, we cannot have protocol. And respect, whether we are on a virtual setting or we are in person, respect and consideration is vital for healthy collaboration. And these are the things that will never change, but more and more people are being encouraged to be relaxed, whether in the meeting rooms or in the corporate world in general. And because of all this awareness about compassion and empathy and inclusion, wanting to include people and encourage a psychologically safe environment for people. So even with this in the back of the mind, people are employers are looking for ways to make their teams more comfortable with the way they dress, with the way they want to show up at work, being a little bit more casual than usual. And sometimes you will still have to wear a suit to go to an important meeting, but with elasticated waistbands now available for a new style of suits, everything is being modified. So but the pandemic has affected protocol in some ways. For handshakes, for example, people are wondering whether that will ever come back. But I want to say that handshakes are the way of greeting in some cultures, but not all. And handshakes are more looked at a way for people to show their agreement. When they're negotiating, when they want to show a successful collaboration, they shake hands. It's not only for greeting purposes, and that is something that will never go away. Maybe for a while it will be a transitional period. People would nod with their heads or they just smile, but handshakes will make a comeback whenever everyone is vaccinated and it's a safe environment for everyone.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a timely announcement.
Hi, I'm Sergei Gorbatov.
I'm Angela Lane.
Together we're researchers, writers and practitioners in the field of human resources.
And we've also been multi-country, multi-assignment career expats.
We owe our professional development and growth to a very large extent to the international assignment opportunities that we have had.
But in a world where distributed work may become the norm, we also want to understand what will happen to the nature, duration, and purpose of international assignments.
Together with our colleague, Julian Dalzell from the University of South Carolina, we're undertaking a study on the future of expatriation.
And we'd value your contribution. You can participate in this important study by completing a simple 10-minute questionnaire.
Access the questionnaire by typing in your browser tinyurl.com/expert study. That's tinyurl.com/expert study. You can also find the link here on Ed's website next to this video.
thank you for joining us in this study. In return for your contribution, we'll provide you with a copy of our research.
And of course, you'll be invited to an exclusive webinar hosted by Ed, where we will share our findings right here on Global Business News.
And so please go to tinyurl.com/expat study. Take the survey so that we can better understand the future of expatriation.
Something that's really neat is that the Bridge School partners with various organizations to provide learning for their students. For example, we partner with a major ballet company, and we are able to enroll several of their students into our school. So now not only is the student able to participate in a school and have a seamless transition while they're very active in their ballet career, but now they have other dancers that are with them that are doing some of the same courses. So it's almost becoming a camaraderie where they're taking similar courses, they're working together on their ballet, and really being able to form this great partnership with these organizations to provide a needed service. A lot of times there are student athletes who will spend hours and hours at the gym or at the basketball courts, wherever it is. And if they're attending a traditional school, they're in school from 8 to 3. They get a quick snack, and then they're at the gym for 3 to 4 hours in the evening. Coming to us and having that partnership, they're able to break that up throughout the day. They can have a morning practice, get some schooling in, have an afternoon practice, finish their schooling in the evening. So there's that flexibility. And additionally, if there are tournaments or performances, it's fantastic because if there's a week where they have shows straight through, they can take that week off of learning and then pick back up when they're done. So it offers this great flexibility. And for the program owners of these sports leagues, it is a win-win situation for them because they see this need. They see this need that their students need to make sure that they are obtaining the grades necessary to be successful adults in our country and in other countries. But it provides them an environment where they can be successful at both.
If you haven't already done this, Arma, you type in your website, the name of your book. Arma has deep experience in the diplomatic corps and at very senior business levels. And I invite you to do a deep dive and check this out. So Arma, I want to be sure I can make some connections here. This is my thing. So Ken Solmers just came back from an international business assignment with a very large company. And he worked out of the Poland office. And prior to that, he's worked in Asia. And Rob Pianka has also a deep global business and military experience. I'm not going to tell secrets, CIA or whatever, but I'm just joking, Rob. But Emma, you're dealing based in Beirut. You're dealing in a busy neighborhood, a rough neighborhood, perhaps. Rob, you have that experience also, right?
Yeah, I'm happy to meet somebody who's in Beirut now. I hope things are good for you. It's a pretty tough place.
Yep, I think we've frozen. Emma,
okay.
If you can hear me, please signify. And let's go very quickly to Drew Phillips, who's waiting patiently in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's been a couple of years since we've been in the same room together.
It's been a while, Ed. I miss it, but it's getting quickly back. Yes, in the San Francisco Bay Area, as you can tell by my attire, it's cold out here, and that's fine. But happy to be on, Ed. Happy to listen to all of the contributors. I'm with Sterling Lexicon, obviously in relocation and moving people abroad. And the title spoke to me. I've got older children, if you will, from 25 on down to 17. And a lot of them went off to chase dreams, and we supported. left the house at 17. So I understand so much of how cultural training and mental wellness and things of that nature need to be interwoven into so much of what we do as we move people abroad and care for people, because some of those children came back a little in need, if you will, and a little different, and weren't to maybe taken care of in the best manner which they should. So these topics, these doctors, these people that are contributing here today, Ed, I have the utmost respect for and support 100% in all of their endeavors, because how we care for each other is definitely going to be highlighted here forward after this pandemic, and that is just a huge positive coming out of the pandemic, if there can be one, that we're paying more attention to one's mental health. So happy to be here. Thank you for all.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Drew and the company, Sterling Lexicon, has in the past sponsored and spoken at several of my corporate meetings. So thank you. Irma, welcome back. So I wanted to ask you if you could just look back at the recent international meetings with President Biden and the other heads of state, the G7 and the recent trip into NATO. From your perspective, being in Beirut, were you able to pick up on the behind the scenes stuff going on with Secretary of State Blinken and John Kerry and some of these other bigwigs circulating like they haven't in 4 or 5 years?
Well, not really. No, I did not get the chance, but I had the chance to see the behind the scenes of other meetings that happened. The one that happened in Turkey with the president of the EU, and how she was a little bit surprised that she didn't have the same seat as her colleague. And I realized that many of protocol officers that were in Europe had a completely different perspective than the ones in North America. And not because it's a different school, but because it's a different perspective and it's a different culture. And in many ways, I emphasize cultural intelligence in protocol because of such examples, how sometimes even in protocol, when we say that rules are rules, and there are certain ways of doing protocol internationally, there is still this aspect of cultural difference, the approach that people don't realize unless they have this awareness of the differences. And for example, when you're a woman and you are not, you are ignored for some reason or not being treated as you expected. In some cultures, they would just go on and ignore that, while in others, they would be aware of this issue and the importance of equality. So from these perspectives, I have noticed that many times protocol officers disagree, not because of the knowledge they have, but because of their background and the cultural difference that the cultural different approach that they have.
So this has been a very interesting interchange, and it will continue. Of those of you who need to jump off, you can check out anytime, but you can never go away because this is going to be on TV forever. So be
Ed,
careful.
I have to run away, Ed.
I know it's happy hour.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go. Ed, maybe you can send out a group with everybody's contacts to those who want to be in contact.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a big believer in community. I'm stuck all alone in Croatia. Please help me be friends.
Well, anyway, it's really nice.
But I mean, a lot of you have such really good insight. And with a couple of universities, I help people build a professional doctorate around their work. So someone like Andrew, I could help you build a PhD around how to have dinner on Mount Everest or whatever. But so if you're interested in looking at how you can turn your expertise into a PhD, let's have a chat. But I have to run. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, let's go back to Ken Summers.
I'm back. What
Okay,
would you like to
good.
talk
I hope
about?
you can hear me okay. We seem to be having some sound difficulty here.
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay, so Ken, in our recent broadcast, you talked about the things that HR needs to do differently because people are different, organizations are different. And, you know, some broadcasters are making a big deal out of about the great quit coming up. In other words, you know, mass resignations, people saying, I don't like what you're doing, I'm going to go find another job.
Yeah. Well, I suspect, I mean, we've all seen those headlines and and read the articles. You know, the most common percentage that I hear is, you know, 40% of the workforce is going to turnover. First, I'll tell you, I don't believe it. I think it's exaggerated, but I think that there's something underlying that is undeniable. And as I talk to clients, as I talk to, you know, friends and colleagues around the world, what is clear is that the pandemic has given people the opportunity to pause, reflect, and in many cases reset their expectations about what's important. And I think we've heard some of that just in this conversation. So I do believe that businesses, the HR people who support the businesses, and in my view, most importantly, the frontline managers need to develop some different tools, because the old command and control, do it my way, isn't going to work as well anymore. I think, you know, I like to think of it as the next normal, not a new normal. And I know I'm splitting hairs, but that's my prerogative. I think the big thing that people should think about as they prepare for the next normal is, number one, they need to listen to their people in ways that are very different than they used to. Because people do have opportunities right now. That, for better or for worse, the job market is really very good right now if you're in the market looking for a new job. So there is risk of losing talent. Number two, the way we're doing business has been transformed, and it's never going to be exactly the same. And I will curtsy to the JP Morgans and the Goldman Sachs of the world that are insisting people come back to the office. We'll see how long that lasts, because I'm skeptical that the old ways will continue without change. But I really think one of the things that people have to bear in mind as they prepare to reopen their businesses is that you're going to have to iterate the process. We are not going to get it right the first time. We may not get it right the second or third time, but what's important is transparency with the people, involving the people in what they need, how it needs to get done, and being transparent in terms of this is working, and this other thing is not working, and together, let's make it a better environment. So I don't think there's any quick fixes. You know, we could write articles, we could write books about, you know, do steps 1 through 11 and you'll have a happy reopening of your office. But in 6 months, especially if this new variant continues to make us all crazy, I'm actually telling some of my clients, in addition to having reopening plans, you better have something on the shelf in case you have to shut down again.
Yeah.
Because, you know, I hate to raise that specter, but I don't think it's unreasonable.
So, yeah, I know. You know, we were just at a local, so when I say we, my Joanne and I were at a recent outdoor concert in Coronado here in San Diego, and they shut them down all last year, but they just opened up. So this was our second one, and then Sunday will be the third. And it had like 2,000 people together. It was all outdoors and rock and roll band when everybody was dancing, having some wine or something. It was really a lot of fun. But right next to us was the doctor who gave us the shots, who was a friend of ours at the local hospital. And he says, you know, in the winter or maybe even earlier, there'll be a booster available, and don't worry, we'll be in touch when it's ready.
Yeah, I mean, I will tell you, I live in Connecticut, and north of 70% of the eligible population here has been vaccinated. So compliance in Connecticut has been remarkably good. For a few weeks, I didn't wear a mask when I went into the supermarket. I'm wearing a mask again.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, let me just show you this. Okay. So I just picked this up 2 days ago. This is a clean one.
Thank you for that.
Only wore it once so far. But I was so glad to take that thing off a couple of months ago. But now you got to worry about things because there's a lot of people, for whatever the reason, very personal reasons, they're not getting vaccinated. And I'm sure you've seen the news recently, this past week, where they actually documented areas where the variant is blossomed, fits almost perfectly in an overlay with areas, geographic areas where there's a predominance of no vaccine.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's been proven, unfortunately.
The folks who are on this call who focus on different dimensions of mental health, and there are several, obviously. I'm sure that you're all thinking about what are the implications for your clients if we wind up backtracking, because I hope we don't.
Right.
But
we better be prepared, and that's a strategic planning thing. They teach that in Harvard and other universities. So you got to get ready for the unknown, because something's got to happen, if not that. Yeah, Rob, did I misspeak earlier? Do you want to clarify something?
Yeah, I'd like to go back because I want to talk to Irma a bit. My dad was a U.S. Army officer, and he was a Middle East specialist. So I was raised in the Middle East in the Army diplomatic milieu, and he was spent a career in what was called then the peace process. I don't know what they call it now. And so the ancient world, the world of all the peoples of the Middle East and Europe, and this was what I was raised in. And being a tail end kid of the 60s, I wasn't going to join the military, so I did humanitarian assistance. But having that background, I did humanitarian assistance in conflict zones, which brought me into contact working with IDPs, internally displaced persons, and refugees. And I come back to the States, I do some refugee resettlement work here. And it's this idea that everybody under globalization circumstances is undergoing a certain amount of refugee status that makes it possible to talk to, say, Americans who feel that they're secure in their identities and in their circumstance, that you can talk to them now because they are confused. I mean, the whole globalization has a major effect on economics and society, and that has an effect on people's identity. And so you can talk to them about it. This is something that it's not just a given, but something you can take ownership of, and you need to update it, and you need to start, expanding the scope, because your stakeholders, come from anywhere on the planet now, and so you can't just talk to Americans. And on an information level, if you're not absorbing global information, you can't make a good decision. I'm sorry, 70% of the pricing in America is pushed around up and down, with significant global factor involvement. It's not just domestic. We don't live in a domestic anything anymore, right? So that's a difference that a lot of the country, the population hasn't, become aware of or caught up with. And so there's this disconnect. And, I think the wellness comes in because it's not healthy not to fit in your environment, right? It's hard to get traction in life. It's hard to, have an intention and do something and, get the results you're looking for. But you need to get some feedback, positive results from your behavior in your life, and it's really difficult, especially for a lot of people who, are blindsided by globalization. I mean, you start a career and then all of a sudden it doesn't, that sector doesn't exist anymore in the North American continent. Where are you? I mean, you can see there's a possibility to be angry about that, but, it's foresight on those things. They train labor in Europe about this. They move people along earlier, knowing that the sectors are going to change. And we don't do things like that. So people, are taking it on the chin, and they feel that they're alone. In America, success is a personal thing. and structural stuff is frowned upon. Well, I'm sorry, there's a massive structural thing going on. So, I think my work with, refugees and internally displaced people is the core of it. And I was sitting in Hariri International Airport 3 years ago, trying to catch the red eye, reading Amin Maalouf on identity. And that started me with this whole thing about coming back to the States and saying, I didn't want the toxicity of what I was listening to get into my brain. What do we need to do? What did I need to do personally? And then, okay, this is useful for anybody else who's in that circumstance. So it's fascinating that you're in Beirut, even under the port explosion and all the economic collapse that you have. Beirut is still a good example of how communities that used to be at civil war are pretty hard to push back or trick back into a civil war. No matter how bad things are, they're still not shooting at each other in the streets there.
Irma?
Yes, no, I totally agree with what Rob is saying, and I want to add to that the most important thing is to realize that there are other perspectives, and there is not only one way of seeing things. And first of all, and second, not this is not in my field, but not to see always yourself as a victim and blame everything on others. That's another thing. I totally agree that with globalization, we have come to realize that there are different ways of doing things, and the more we are aware of those differences, the better we're going to communicate with each other. And that's where empathy and understanding and putting yourself in someone else's shoe, that is going to help you the most to be able to have a successful conversation, let alone a collaboration for later on. So yes, thank you for that, Rob.
Yeah, Andy, what do you think about all this?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think you're all completely right what's being said, and I think listening and understanding what's going on. Obviously, I work for a relocation moving company, the AGS Group, and we've got hundreds of clients globally. So it's a global. You're talking to different countries every day, so different kinds of backgrounds, different kinds of what's going on, and I think when we're talking to the companies, and what we've done is really took a step back when all this happened at the beginning, and actually just reached out to those companies and said, look, how can we help? We've got services on the ground in 96 countries. How can we help you locally rather than internationally? Now that was very different for us because we work on an international scale. So we started working locally with our corporates in those areas. But actually what we found was you would have a corporate that's a global company, but everywhere they are around the world, it was different for them internally as well. And once that penny drops and you realize actually you've got to help them locally, you start to add a real benefit to those companies. But you really have to understand, and some of the services we were helping them with is things that we would never have done, if I'm honest. It wasn't our core business, but we realized we had resources there that could help them and assist them. And sometimes just listening to them help them. Asking a global mobility person, how is it for you? Not the company, how is it for you? And then they open up and tell you, like, wow, it's a minefield. We have people now that are stuck in one country. A lot of people have repatriated. We didn't know they repatriated. It's a mess, and that when you start to understand what's happening there, it just became more of a trying to, we could see the shift, we can see this change, we can see it happening, we all see it, everyone agrees that, I like what you said about it's the next norm and not the new norm, because it really is the next. I think what's happened is we're evolving as a race, and you know, whatever we think, we're our mindsets are changing. Some of us, I think, are starting to grab it quicker. Others are trying to hold on to what we had, which is now gone, you know, and I think there's a whole shift in the way that everything is happening in the world. And one thing I would say, the pandemic has brought the world a lot closer together. I think, you know, before, you know, we couldn't agree on anything, but I think we all agree the pandemic is the right pain. So we're all working together to combat this, which is sort of comforting in a way that you know, countries are coming together more on that humanitarian side, I think.
Let's go to Nina and then Lucy and then Dr. Natalie. Nina?
I can say that I really enjoyed listening to this. Considering this is my first broadcast with all of you, I am just overwhelmed by listening to the stories and also feeling really blessed because there's so much to really be proud about when you look back at all of the things that you've overcome and survived and experienced. And I can truly kudos to Dr. Natalie for at the beginning of the show when you said that you were moving because of the education system here in the United States. I 1,000% agree with you. Being a public school kid, I definitely think that there is so much that needs to be turned around inside out that I think we would need another century for that to evolve. And everyone's going to fight against it. So I commend you for wanting better for you and your child. So I think that that's amazing. Andrew, I'm kind of like you. I was late to the game with the swimming part. I learned about 4 years ago, and I can't wait to get back in the pool whenever it's not 100 degrees here in Houston, Texas. But I will say, I don't think I'm ever going to do a challenge about 7 miles, but as long as I can get a couple of laps in and float and just kind of look cute in a swimsuit, I think I could. But I will say, for me as an African-American woman here in America, the change really does start with our mindsets. And unfortunately, without the education of knowing how to do that, because you are trained necessarily to kind of go into corporate America and actually work for someone and not really work for yourself. And that's not just your business, but that's also personally. I mean, it is intuned for us to wait until we're 65 to actually then live and enjoy our lives. Well, who wants to wait that long? I think that was one of the things as an entrepreneur, I really wanted to grab my life and figure out what was right for me and not hide behind someone else or another structure in order to do that. I commend Lucy on her story, and definitely I don't know what it's like to definitely lose a parent, but my heart definitely goes out to you for that and that struggle of how you've had to build that, because I know the relationship I have with my mother and how that really does hone in on who I am as a person. So doing that work and that strength, and just to see you, you're glowing, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. So I truly commend and I appreciate actually just hearing a few moments of your story. But
okay, Lucy, let's hear more of your story.
Yeah, please,
Lucy.
Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
I'm truly humbled. Yeah, and unfortunately, I would love to be here all day, but I gotta go. But I have some nuggets that I want to leave for employees in the corporate world out there. When you are dealing with employers and employees, they gotta be a shift. We're talking about mindset now. As a boss, sometimes we have bosses that are addicts. Nobody knows that the boss does drugs, but he shows up at the office every day. So when he's sitting in the office and he's feeling that nudge, he gotta have something and it's not there, he's gonna snap. It's about high time we take our managers and bosses for drug testing. Check their mental health, because everybody carries hidden scars. During this pandemic, I read a lot of stories of people crying, saying, oh, micromanagers they were trying to remotely micromanage people working from home. I've had people come to me crying that I'm depressed from working from home because I go to the bathroom, they're saying, you're not on your laptop, you're not doing this. We need to change this system. It's toxic. Somebody's working from home, sometimes the doorbell does ring. You gotta attend the doorbell, So we need to change the system because I know so many stories, I'm writing a book about it. And there's some employers that just that thrive on other employees gaslighting each other, They gotta be one person gaslighting and doing all these things. These things are not good for mental health. These things are not good for the workplace. Everybody is carrying a hidden scar. There's a woman that shows up every day, but her husband beat her last night. There's a woman who was raped growing up. She's still trying to heal. Let's change the mindset. A workplace should not be a place that causes you stress. The way that I look at work is my home away from home. It's gotta be healthy, because everybody is carrying a hidden scar. Look at everybody as somebody who is broken, because we've all been broken or broken inside somewhat. That's all I had to say. Thank you.
Well, it's a blessing for me to have you on the show, Lucy. Please come back. Ken Summers, you're our resident HR executive here today.
Well, I mean, Lucy is right, that we all have our own scars. I'm not sure I'm ready to sign up for mandatory drug testing for everybody, but I take your point, and it's not without foundation, I'm certain. But no, I think that Lucy has underscored a point that I probably didn't make well enough earlier, that the world is different. It is critical that we start listening to each other in a different way, a more thoughtful way, a more inclusive way. Because if we want our places of work to deliver not only, the economic rewards, but psychic gratification, and there's no reason why they can't, then we need to change our behaviors. And it starts by listening. It starts by being able to cross cultural borders, whether it's virtually or in person. I listened with particular interest to Irma's experience, because I've been fortunate to live and work in 7 different countries in addition to the US. And, you're right, Irma. It starts by listening, by putting yourself in other people's shoes. And there's no reason why we can't do that domestically in our workplaces.
Yeah, thank you.
We just have to decide to do it.
All right, quickly, Kathy McCarty, this is your first time here. Obviously, your voice matters too. So what do you think of all this? What are you going to take away?
Ed, thank you. Like Nina, I am here just full of gratitude in my heart, and I'm overflowing with the conversations that I'm hearing and how there's such connection with collaboration and in community. Ken mentioned about the new normal in his world and globally with the pandemic, and my message I've been speaking about the new normal in my message with respect to meth contamination, meth toxicity in our spaces, and that I hope to bring this conversation where the new normal is in real estate transactions, that people do test to protect themselves and their families, and that they aren't caught with that hot potato of toxicity that will impact potentially either their health or their financial stability. So there's a lot of synergy here that I'm feeling, especially like with Lucy, and the impacts, and Dr. Natalie spoke about things happening for us and not to us. I looked at that from the moment a lot of these things happened in my lives, and I had 100 huge hurdles to climb, especially in the first 100 days, and all that I learned, which is why I brought my mission to life. And so I am overwhelmed with goodness about being here and being able to hear from such thought leaders
Thank you.
on a global platform. Thank
I
you.
welcome you back. Dr. Natalie, I know you have to scoot. You've got a broadcast coming up. So Natalie, would you like to quickly summarize in 60 seconds?
Oh God, 60 seconds. Okay. I just want to say that what is standing out to me here, other than the expertise and the care that everybody was sharing, is really the tolerance. And what I mean by that is, I think Rob, you were pointing out, as well as Irma, some ideas about not everybody understands that there are many different perspectives. And when Irma was talking earlier, the idea of cultural expertise, and there are so many different subcultures. I'm not just talking the US and Canada or the US and Germany, but within the US, within Germany, within Beirut, there are lots of subcultures. And if we really want to utilize what, in this instance, COVID or any kind of trauma has brought us, we need to embrace that and be open and tolerant to understanding. And that's the only way we can succeed. If I don't understand the way that culture works, as if I were to go to Beirut as a woman, I can go in there and say, well, I am German, I am a US accomplished person. That's not going to get me anywhere, right? And it has nothing to do with me putting myself down, but understanding and, most importantly, appreciating the culture. So that's part of what I'm getting out of it. And there are lots more nuggets, but the change that I think, Ed, you started, and when we're talking about all the items that have been brought up, it's about mental, spiritual, and physical wellness. That's what it gets back to. And as HR people, we need to pay attention to our employees as well as the managers, because everybody's going through high stress. Whether that means everybody needs to get drug tested, or whether we just need to align how we communicate. And I forget whether it was Ken or Rob talking earlier about people going back to the office. It's not going to happen because people, and especially in the US, have now understood how flawed the education system is. Parents who never cared have now seen what's going on. So there's a lot more homeschooling. So we need to understand all of those cultural nuances, which will help us come together and make change happen where necessary. And it starts with our minds and focusing on where we are. But I unfortunately have to run. I want to connect with everybody who I'm not connected to. And Ed, I know you and I will be talking as well. So I want to thank everybody. It's been great being here.
Our next broadcast of this type will be August 11. You'll all be notified. So Irma, if I could go back to you now, and if you could summarize, because we've just had internal perspectives. You are very internal, of course, but you deal in the external of the in the room or on the phone with very important people, whether in business or in the diplomatic scene. And from your executive training experience, how can you apply things that you've learned here today from these other people to your world in dealing in protocols? Protocols are methods, right? Do's and don'ts.
Well, they're more than that. It's not as rigid as people think. And in protocol, you have relationships, and you need to realize that you are not dealing with just a push of button like some people think that you should. And I was, I've been on a lot of your shows, but I really enjoyed this one because it was very inspirational, and it touched me in many ways. I said that before. I realized that in the corporate world, in the diplomatic world, no matter where you are, when you touch people, they will never forget you, and they will make sure that they collaborate with you more. I know a lot of people want to deal based on rules and based on contracts. And if you have a list of things that should happen on a contract, but they forget that they're dealing with people, with humans behind that contract. And if that person doesn't like you, no matter what your contract is, no matter what your approach is, if they don't like you, they're not going to give you that deal. And they're not going to give you that deal maybe on a corporate level or even on a state level. This human touch, the thing that we should not forget, that we're humans, we have feelings, and other people have feelings too. It's not just us. And our approach should not be self-centered. It should be centered around other people, trying to understand them, trying to understand that there are other approaches, other perspectives, and not all automatically judge whenever we don't agree. We can disagree respectfully, and that could give us a chance to later on to collaborate, or later on to agree on things that we didn't agree before. So I think human touch, something that the pandemic taught us as well, something that in Lebanon a lot of people have used, because it's a country that went through struggles and wars. And when you are exposed to such harsh environment, your compassion, your sympathy becomes more developed than when you are in an environment that is relaxed, you have everything, and somehow you think that it is a given. So I took that from this panel today, and I was very happy to meet all of you. Some of you I've already known, and it was really amazing to be in this show with you all.
Thank you. Please come back. So Andy, are you going back in the water tomorrow?
Yes, I'll be training again this weekend. Every weekend I'm in the sea. So it never stops until I've done the channel, which will be in September. So yeah, so it's slightly different from the talk we've been talking about today, but yeah, it's a challenge. It's still a mind game for me. So I've got three things I'm doing the channel for. One is about ocean plastic. I thought, like anything we do, you also have to show, give something back, I always think. And if I'm going to swim the sea, then I need to do something to highlight that. And it made sense to do the highlight of plastic in our oceans, which has opened my eyes completely again, because, it's just incredible, the amount of plastic in the water. And I'm doing that through a company called 5 Things Clear. And then my 2 charities I'm raising for one is Community Action Nepal, which takes me back to 2015 when I was in the earthquake. And I've always been helping that charity, and will carry on probably till the day I die to help that charity. And that's providing assistance to the mountain people of Nepal that don't have much. So and then the last charity is more of a personal one, which is a hospice not far from me called Keach Hospice, which help people with cancer care, etc. And they looked after a family member. So I'm doing something on each level for me to try and put back. I've got the opportunity to swim the English Channel. So that's my story.
Thank you for being with us on this special broadcast of Global Voices for Change. As you saw, there was a diversity of people and opinion from multiple countries and different experience levels. With special thanks to Irma Balian in Beirut, Lebanon. She is an author of Protocol Wise and has deep experience in dealing with very senior diplomatic corps and international business executives. And the whole idea was how to communicate in a stressful environment, but within a professional environment as well. Really interesting. Also, as you know, Andrew Ellerman, my pal from Oxford and Cambridge, England. He's going to swim the English Channel in September. And, you know, the guy just learned how to swim. And yet he's got this challenge bug, you know where, and he's going to swim the English Channel on behalf of charities. And one of the charities is to rid the oceans of plastic. Can you imagine swimming in the English Channel with all the oil and the fishes and the, oh, yuck. Well, Andrew, we wish you well. Now, also on the program today was our friend, Mr. Global Agility, Rob Pianka. Also, Kathy McCarty, who's got extensive experience with toxins and ridding the world of toxins, ridding your home, ridding your body, ridding your life from toxins. Ken Somers, a retired executive with very large corporations, spoke to us about human resources business partners. And he will be back, Ken will be back with us in a new series called HRBP that's coming up. We're going to focus on the special role of human resources executives who are taking the role of business partners, intermingling and intervening between stakeholders within the corporate structure, especially in this post-COVID environment. Also with us was Nina Taylor, who started a new business called The Sweet Faith, and this is about temporary housing, and she's just a delight to have around. Denise O'Malley, a reformed insurance broker specializing in wellness in the corporate environment, bright gal. Lucy Ruth is in the New York area, but originally from Africa, and has deep experience in helping young women actualize themselves in a safe environment. Very pleased to have Dr. Justin Kennedy, who came to us today from Croatia, just south of Dubrovnik on vacation. And his new book is all about rebooting the brain. In other words, changing some things in your head changes a lot of stuff in your daily life. So you need to be comfortable doing that. And he talked to us about rebooting your brain. And finally, Dr. Natalie Forrest, who's been with us on many of our programs. She will be relocating from the Baltimore area over to Hamburg, Germany with her daughter. And she is originally from Hamburg, but has been in the US for many years and thought it time to give her daughter her native background experience in Germany. It was really interesting, and we look forward to having Dr. Natalie on our program again. All right, and last but not least is our friend from San Francisco Bay Area, Drew Phillips. He's an executive with the relocation management company called Sterling Lexicon. So Drew has been at several of our live meetings in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area, which means San Francisco and Mountain View and San Jose for several years, and has been a speaker and a co-sponsor, and very glad to have Drew Phillips back with us. So this is Ed in San Diego signing off. This is the Global Voices for Change. And our next edition will be on August 11, and stay tuned. And by the way, if you want to be a guest on our show, if you have something to say about being a global voice for change, this is not political, it's about business, it's about personal. Come on in. Contact me at publisher@globalbusiness.media. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you for joining us in the meeting room at Global TV Talk Show.
Have a wonderful day, and stay safe.